the NFL schedule release comes out, and the Broncos went mutton busting.
Mark Johnson, the voice of the Buffs, was the rodeo announcer.
Sending kids out on sheep and seeing how long they could hold on to. I loved it. Also, didn't the Colts had to remove their schedule?
Yeah, a little insensitive. Tyreek Hill was mocked as a Minecraft version of a dolphin and was pulled over by the U.S. Coast Guard. A little bit insensitive, and apparently the Indianapolis Colts, they took the video down and also cited the fact that they are not in compliance with the agreement with Microsoft and were insensitive to Tyreek Hill. So other than that, the Colts are doing just fine.
It's what happens when you give the schedule release to a 24-year-old. Just say, hey, go crazy. Have fun. But we do know the Broncos schedule, and it looks like this. You'll start the season at home against Tennessee, and then you'll head to Indianapolis, at LAC, home against Cincy are your first 4 weeks of the season. So, Coach, let's do it. We're going to go through every single game for the Broncos. Let us know how they're going to do. Will they be better than the 10-6 last year that got them into the play? Or was it 10-7? Do you play 7? You play 17 games. 10-7 now. I always get confused at that with the extra game. 10-7 that got you
Yesterday
into the
was an
playoffs.
18-game season, I believe.
I know.
Should have known the migraine was on its way. It was knocking on the door yesterday. It's like, hey, Raj, remember you played hockey for a lot of years? Remember you got your noggin busted in?
Remember all those concussions?
Remember those conks?
They're coming back.
I'm here to remind you. It was a lot of fun playing hockey, wasn't it?
Thanks to everyone who's dealing with me this morning. All right, so let's start off week 1 against the number 1 overall pick in Cam Ward out of the U. Sunday, September 7th at 2:05 p.m. Bo Nix and the Broncos open up against the Tennessee Titans, and how do they fare?
They fare very well, and Cam Ward's going to throw 3 interceptions to the Denver Broncos, and the Broncos are going to win by a minimum of 23 points.
They're going to be big-time favorites in this one. I wouldn't be shocked if they're 9-point favorites, 7.5-point favorites in this thing. I think they come off looking stellar against Tennessee, and then you roll into week number 2, your first road game, Sunday at 2:05, September 14th at the Indianapolis Colts. Who knows who's going to be their quarterback in that game? I think it fares really well for them. Denver starts off 2-0, and I think they win both of these games easily.
They should, but this is a game that I say buyer beware. Proceed with caution, and here's why. For some strange reason, I think that Daniel Jones himself, will end up being a revelation for the Indianapolis Colts, will be the starting quarterback. Anthony Richardson will be used probably solely as a wildcat type quarterback, and I think this is going to be a lot closer, but the Denver Broncos defense wins this game. Broncos are 2-0.
All right, 2-0 after 2 weeks. You head on out to the road again. September 21st, another afternoon game. This time is your first divisional matchup as you take on Harbaugh, Herbert, and the LA Chargers. They're an issue, and they got better. I think every team in the AFC West outside of Kansas City got better, and while the Chiefs didn't really need to get better considering they have Patrick Mahomes, on the road against LAC, I do think is your first loss on the season. I've got them at 2-1 after 3.
This is going to be the matchup of what could have been. Omarion Hampton is going to be featured heavily in Greg Roman, offensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh's power scheme heavy run game, and the Broncos lose their first game and begin, unfortunately, what I believe is going to be a 3-game skid.
3-game skid in a row. All right, so this is I had the biggest trouble with when I looked over it last night. I hemmed and hawed over this game more than anything, and that is Week 4, Monday night, 6:15 p.m. Again, all these times in Mountain Time at home against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. You got them at the end of the season last year, which is typically when Burrow and Cincinnati start to make their big move. I mentioned yesterday, the turmoil between them and Trey Hendrickson, I think, is a massive story in the offseason.
It'll get settled during training camp.
Are you certain that's going to get settled?
It will be settled during training camp.
I'm not convinced that thing's getting settled. Hendrickson wants his money. Cincinnati is notorious at not paying their players, even though they've done it to 2 wide receivers and their quarterback.
Do they go with the Dumb and Dumber briefcase of IOUs to players?
Maybe. I don't know, man. I think that's gonna hang over them. For the longest time, I had them losing this game. I think they find a way to win this.
I don't. I think that you don't want to play the Bengals healthy early on in a season. Joe Burrow, with his litany of weapons, is going to do what they do, and this has already proven to be a bad matchup for the Denver Broncos, and that was with a Bengals team that was playing for absolutely nothing at the end of last season. I see that the Denver Broncos lose this game.
Well, wasn't Cincinnati alive?
Very much on the outside looking.
They were
in.
on the hold on. They were
needed,
alive.
They
were
needed
alive.
a lot to
Playing
happen.
for nothing, they were alive.
They were alive, but needed a lot to happen.
They needed wins at that point. Playing for nothing is not in the cards there. I think that is a gross oversimplification of what that game was. They were very much alive in the postseason run. They needed help, but they were alive. They were not dead in the water. This was not Kansas City sitting everyone in the final game. And you got better on defense. You got way better on defense. And that was an overtime game.
Joe Burrow, being one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the National Football League, is not going to allow back-to-back seasons without being in the postseason to happen under his watch.
All right, I have them at 3-1. You have them at 2-2 in their first home loss of the season. Week number 5, 11 a.m. on the East Coast at the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think there's any shot in hell that they're winning this thing.
I don't love it either.
There's no chance they win that football game.
And this is going to be at the point of the season where people are starting to question, is Bo Nix really the guy? And I think that he is going to answer the call, but it's going to be the following week when he gets to play the New York Jets.
Answering the call is a win against the Jets? How much stock are you putting in that thing?
Well, because
right, so
they're going to rip off some consecutive victories. That's what's going to happen.
You have them at 2-3 through 5 weeks. I have them at 3-2 through 5. Week 6 in London, 7:30 a.m. Mountain at New York, technically a road game. This is another one I think they beat the wheels off their opponent.
They will absolutely obliterate the Jets, and they will be back to 500, and things are looking in a positive direction because you got the Giants looming.
From one week to another, both New York teams. However, you don't get a bye week, which is it's not guaranteed, but it's typical when you play overseas that you get the bye week after. They're not giving it to the Broncos. They have to go back home. I would anticipate, actually, that they stay on the East Coast Week 5 and Week 6.
No question. This is going to be this is where the season turns around at the Briarwood again, down in West Virginia. It's going to be the turning point, the rallying of the troops, if you will. Sean Payton's going to be looking for his Remember the Titans moment.
The return of Russell Wilson as a starter, Week 7 against the Giants. That's a win.
It's a big win, and by that point in time, I'm thinking that the Giants have already tried Russell Wilson. They don't like him. They've already tried Jameis Winston. They don't like him. And now Jackson Dart is going to get his opportunity to throw pick sixes, even though his fellow quarterback is going to pray those pick sixes away in Jameis Winston.
Interceptions and rookie quarterbacks, when it goes against elite defenses, if you get another rookie QB in Week 7 like you did in Week 1, if you get another guy who is turnover prone in Week 2 against Indy, with this defense, this secondary, man, I'm all about that. Win against New York. You move on Week 8 at home, 2:25, October 26th against the Dallas Cowboys in Dak Prescott. This one I think is a little sketchy to me too, but I've got them eking a win out against the Cowboys at home.
Raj, you got the Broncos at 6-2. We're feeling good. We're right in spot. And I agree. Broncos are going to improve to 5-3 with a commanding performance at home against the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys will be out of playoff contention at that point in the season.
6-2 for me through 8 weeks, 5-3 for you. Moving into Week 9, a really difficult one at Houston, 11 a.m. November 3rd. I think this is a really difficult game for them to win. C.J. Stroud has had his sophomore slump. He came back. He wins a playoff game, although you and I have yelled at each other. It wasn't because of him that they won that playoff game. It's because Justin Herbert threw 4 interceptions. I do have them losing against Houston.
I actually have a victory against the Houston Texans. I think this is the kind of game where your number one defense in the National Football League creates a bunch of havoc. Defense travels, and I think that this is a game where C.J. Stroud struggles and turns the football over against an incredibly talented secondary. So I have the Broncos now at 6-3, just like you do.
All right, so I flip-flopped from last night. When I put out my tweet last night, I had them beating Houston. I feel a little bit different because I'm a negative Nelly this morning, and my migraine is messing with my head for some reason. Week 10, home against Vegas. I think this is the one team that you sweep in the AFC West. You kill Vegas.
I don't have the same optimism about this matchup because I think this is going to be just like the LA Chargers. The Raiders are going to be built on stopping the run, rushing the passer on third down, and running the rock, just like they did with Marshawn Lynch, beast mode when Pete Carroll was the head coach up in Seattle. I actually have the Broncos losing the debut matchup against Pete Carroll and the revamped Las Vegas Raiders.
All right, so that's a Thursday night game, November 6th, again, at home. It's an easier game for the Raiders coming up in Week 9. They get Jacksonville at home. Again, both teams on very short rest. You and Moj both thinking that they're going to lose at home against Vegas.
Yeah, I just have this feeling that everybody's chalking up the Raiders as a double victory type of scenario. I think this will end up being a split, and it'll be opposite home and away, which is a preview of what's to come.
Week 11, home against Kansas City, Sunday, 2:25 p.m. on November 16th. First time you see the Chiefs.
I like the Broncos in this game. I like the Broncos defense. I think at that point in time, we'll see if Travis Kelce's even available, Isaiah Pacheco. Have they addressed some of their aging pieces on the offensive side of the ball, facing such a good defense? The Broncos defense, even without Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw and Jade Barron, have been an issue for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I like the Broncos beating the Chiefs.
You and I flip-flop here. I've got them losing at home in Week 11 to Kansas City. I said that they're going to sweep the Raiders this year. I have a bad feeling that they're going to get swept by Kansas City. I think it's a close one. I don't think it's as devastating as last year's was, where you get Bo Nix, walking down the field and leading them essentially to a victory until a blocked field goal. I think it's a close one, but I think you just lose it. You go into the bye week, Week 12, looking just fine, and then you come out on the other side. Sunday Night Football at Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders is a doozy.
Raj, I don't love this matchup coming off a bye because you should be rested. You should get some of your players back. The Broncos on the East Coast against highly talented two-way quarterbacks. Think last year's Lamar Jackson performance against the Denver Broncos. Jaden Daniels is going to have himself a doozy of a performance, and they're going to beat the Broncos.
I agree. I think it's another loss. Coming off the bye week, though, gives you a chance. Like you got a lot of rest. You're hoping to be healthy then. Plenty of time to be able to game plan against him. Now, the question for me is, at that point in the season, is Jaden Daniels a guy you can trust? I'm not saying you can trust to not have a sophomore slump. Can you trust that quarterback to stay healthy?
Yes.
Are you sure?
I think he
had one season last year where he didn't take a whole bunch of hits. When he was at LSU, dude, that guy threw his body to the wind. And I don't love that he's a two-way quarterback. He's fine staying in the
football
pocket.
Player. I think that he continues to adapt his game to the
He
National
got hurt
Football
last
League.
year, man.
Yeah, it was
I think he got away with it.
It was a short-lived injury. It didn't necessarily perpetuate throughout the entire season.
Going into these schedule predictions, we have to assume that every single game everyone's going to be healthy, right? So I think him at complete health, they lose the game. If Jaden Daniels isn't healthy completely, he's nursing a rib, he's nursing a shoulder because he's gotten hit a little bit, he tries to scramble, he gets blown up by a linebacker. That's the one thing that I think can go your way.
Major kudos to anybody who can tell who the backup quarterback for the Washington Commanders is. Last year, I think it was Mariota.
I have no idea who it is.
I have no idea either.
Oh, so you're saying major kudos? You don't even
know?
No,
I'm looking to the text thread, man.
I've got them losing against Washington. Moving on to Week 14 at Las Vegas, December 7th at 2:05 p.m. I told you they're sweeping the Raiders. They win that one.
The Broncos win in Vegas. They conquered that demon. Last year was the first time in franchise history the Broncos had won in Las Vegas. I think at this point in time, and I know we're not allowed to predict injuries, but I have a little storyline for you. Geno Smith banged up, and the Raiders proved that they should have drafted Shedeur Sanders.
Vegas is already going to be out of it by Week 14. I think you're going to see a team that's looking for their next quarterback of the future in the draft next year, which means they want to start losing games between the weeks of 14 and 18. They sweep the Raiders. We move on to December 14th, Sunday afternoon at home against your guy, Jordan Love, and the Green Bay Packers.
As much as I hate to say this, I have the Broncos winning this game because I do love my guy, Jordan Love. The Broncos have owned the Packers in at Empower Field in the Mile High. They've really struggled as a franchise coming to altitude for whatever reason. Even a really good team that advanced into the postseason deep in 2023 lost against Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos here at Empower Field. I like the Broncos.
Did they get better enough on the offensive side, Green Bay, for Jordan Love?
Matthew Golden's pretty big first-round acquisition because Jordan Love can he can throw the football over the wall. He can put it down the field.
I flip-flopped twice, right? I told you last night that I had Denver winning the Houston game on the road. I have them losing that now. I'm flip-flopping here. I had them losing at home against Green Bay. I agree with you. I think the defense shows up big time. Couple of big interceptions against Love in crunch time. They win that game, and then they move on to take on Jacksonville the next week on December 21st prior to 4 days of rest going on the road on Christmas evening against Kansas City. I think they beat Green Bay. I think they beat Jacksonville in Week 16.
Yeah, this is an absolute victory for the Broncos. A great finish to this season to have these home games down the stretch. If you look at this finish for the Broncos, it looks like 3 out of the final 4 games are going to be home. I love that for the Broncos.
Week 17, Thursday night football, 6:15 p.m., December 25th, Christmas night against Kansas City on the road, cold environment, difficult team, and I do think you're getting a different version of the Chiefs this year at the end of the season. I don't think the AFC West is done by the time Week 17 rolls around. I don't like the short rest, the short week. I don't think it's a winnable game, Week 17.
No, I think that the Chiefs are playing for something. They might be playing for the division. Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes. I got a loss for the Denver Broncos.
Loss, then it all comes down to either January 3rd or 4th at home against the Chargers. I mentioned that the AFC West isn't done by Week 17. I don't think it's done by Week 18.
Are we at 10-6 both?
We're both at 10-6 right now. It comes down to here, whether or not you can get this thing done. Because 11-6 might win the division this year. You know what? They're going to beat the Chargers. At home, Week 18, big-time football, year 2. Justin Herbert shrinks in big-time games. We know that about him so far.
That could be a game where the Chargers are playing for postseason eligibility. It could happen. And if that's the case, I agree with you that I think the Denver Broncos finish up 11-6 with a victory over the Chargers, which will be Sean Payton's first victory in this matchup, in my opinion, in four matchups.
11-6 could win it. The chances of it being tied with Kansas City and you lose the tiebreaker, because I think they're going 0-2 against Kansas City.
I think they're going to split against Kansas City.
Who's got the better divisional record then? Because you have a straight split right now, if I'm correct. You're 3-3.
I have a split with all 3 teams in the AFC West, which I think is very much on the table.
11-6 could win a division. 11-6 certainly gets you in as a good wild card team. The team got better. The defense got better. The drafting was good. They should have a running back. They like their third-round wide receiver. That means you should be one more win better this year.
Going through this exercise, it does make you realize that I believe that the ceiling for this team could be 13 wins. A lot of people have said 11 or 12 or – I think
13's a lot of wins, man.
I think it's a ceiling. It's a ceiling, though, because here's why I have the faith that they could do that, is if this defense is what you think it is, they can win some of these games for you down the stretch.